In the next few minutes, I'm going to expose 7 tea brands that are quietly brewing pesticide residues, artificial flavors, and misleading health claims into your daily cup. These aren't fringe brands. They're household names sold in every grocery store across America. But behind their wholesome packaging lies a chemical cocktail your body didn't ask for. Stick with me until the end, because I'll also reveal 4 brands that actually honor what tea is supposed to be: pure, clean, and calming. Let's steep the truth and pour it out, one toxic leaf at a time. Lipton is one of the most iconic tea brands in the world. For many Americans, it's the first tea they ever drank. Whether it's a dusty yellow box in your grandma's cupboard or a bottle of pre-brewed iced tea from the gas station fridge, Lipton feels familiar. But that familiarity is part of the problem, because once you peel back the brand nostalgia and dig into what's actually in Lipton's tea bags, you'll find something unsettling, something far from the natural and refreshing image they project. Let's start with what the independent tests say. Over the past decade, multiple lab investigations, including one led by Greenpeace in 2015, have detected residues of banned pesticides in Lipton's teas. We're not talking about trace amounts. Some samples showed combinations of over 10 chemical residues in a single tea bag. Among them, imidacloprid, lambda, cyhalothrin, and bifenthrin, all pesticides with documented risks to the nervous system, hormone regulation, and liver health. Imidacloprid, for example, belongs to the neonicotinoid class of chemicals, which have been strongly linked to bee colony collapse. In humans, they've been associated with neurological effects and hormone disruption, particularly in developing children. And yet this is showing up in tea marketed as a calming, health-promoting drink. But here's the kicker. Lipton doesn't even deny that they use conventionally grown tea leaves treated with these chemicals. They operate under the assumption that as long as the residues fall under the legal maximum limits, the tea is safe. But that legal framework was designed decades ago, long before we understood the cumulative effects of daily, low-dose pesticide consumption. Think about it. Most people don't drink just 1 cup of tea per month. Many people drink it every single day, sometimes multiple times per day. That's hundreds of exposures per year. And over time, it adds up. Now let's talk about the bag itself. Lipton uses traditional heat-sealed tea bags, which often contain epichlorohydrin, a chemical added to prevent the bag from breaking apart in hot water. Once steeped, this compound can hydrolyze into 3-MCPD, a substance recognized by the World Health Organization as a possible human carcinogen. And yet, nowhere on the packaging does Lipton disclose the presence of this compound. Consumers assume they're steeping a healthy, hydrating drink, not soaking a chemical-treated paper product in boiling water and drinking the runoff. Even more concerning is the lack of transparency in their sourcing. Lipton sources tea from multiple continents, including India, Kenya, and Sri Lanka, without disclosing the specific region, farming practices, or harvest timelines. That's significant because pesticide regulations vary dramatically between countries, and in many parts of the world, chemicals banned in the US or Europe are still widely used. And what about organic options? Lipton does offer a small line of green or herbal teas with eco-friendly branding, but most of these still lack USDA organic certification, and none of them are accompanied by third-party testing reports. In other words, you're taking their word for it. And for a brand this size, that shouldn't be good enough anymore. Let's not forget the flavored Lipton teas, like their lemon, peach, and raspberry blends. These often contain natural flavors, a marketing term that can legally include chemically altered compounds extracted from unknown plant sources, processed with solvents and emulsifiers. Not exactly the kind of nature most people imagine when brewing tea. To summarize, Lipton thrives on nostalgia, pricing power, and shelf dominance. But behind that success lies a product that consistently fails purity testing, offers zero meaningful transparency, and contains chemical compounds that would be rejected by stricter markets. And yet, millions of Americans drink it every week. Lipton isn't just another brand on the shelf. It's the symbol of a broken system where scale replaces quality, where marketing replaces transparency, and where long-term exposure to questionable compounds is brushed aside in favor of profit margins. Tea shouldn't come with a toxic load, but when it comes to Lipton, it does. Bigelow is one of the oldest tea brands in America. Its signature box, often with individually wrapped foil bags, has been a staple in office break rooms and kitchen drawers for decades. Their Constant Comment blend even has a nostalgic cult following, praised for its spiced aroma and traditional flavor. But underneath that classic Americana branding lies a list of silent concerns, most of which never appear on the box. Let's start with the tea bag itself, the part nobody talks about. While most people focus on what's in the tea bag, very few ask questions about the actual material that's being steeped in boiling water. Bigelow uses standard heat-sealed bags for many of their products, and these bags are commonly treated with a compound called epichlorohydrin, a chemical used to reinforce paper fibers, so the bag doesn't fall apart in hot water. Here's where it gets disturbing. When epichlorohydrin is exposed to hot water, like during tea steeping, it can break down into 3-MCPD, a compound flagged by the World Health Organization as a potential human carcinogen. Multiple studies in rodents have shown that chronic exposure to 3-MCPD may cause kidney toxicity, reproductive issues, and even tumor growth. And yet, there is no label warning, no indication that this substance could be forming in your cup. And Bigelow doesn't publicly confirm or deny whether they've reformulated their bag coatings, leaving consumers in the dark. Now let's talk about the contents of the tea bags. Bigelow sources tea leaves from various international plantations, but doesn't provide transparent region of origin details. There's no fair trade certification, no farm-level traceability, and very little known about the pesticide protocols used on those farms. Without USDA organic certification on most of their line, it's safe to assume that the tea leaves are grown conventionally, meaning they've likely been sprayed with herbicides and insecticides before harvest. And here's the key detail: tea is not washed after harvest. Unlike fruit or vegetables, tea leaves are dried directly after picking. That means any pesticide residues present during harvest remain on the leaves, and those residues are then infused straight into your tea water. In 2013, a Canadian Food Inspection Agency study tested popular tea brands for pesticide residues. While the report focused more heavily on brands like Celestial Seasonings and Lipton, the underlying issue applies across the board. Multiple mainstream teas showed residue levels exceeding international safety standards. Bigelow wasn't directly named, but they've also never released third-party testing to reassure their customers. Silence, in this case, is not a sign of purity, it's a warning sign. Then there's the issue of flavoring agents. Bigelow's flavored teas, including their vanilla chai, perfect peach, and cinnamon stick, often contain natural and artificial flavors, a catch-all term that may legally include solvents, preservatives, and compounds derived from GMO crops. These flavoring agents don't need to be disclosed in full, which means the consumer has no idea what they're really drinking. Some of these ingredients are used in the fragrance and processed food industries, not something you'd knowingly want in your cup. Even the individually wrapped bags, those shiny foil pouches, aren't as protective as they seem. While they do block light and moisture, they also contribute to excessive packaging waste. And there's no guarantee the packaging doesn't leach plasticizers or chemical residues, especially when stored for long periods or exposed to fluctuating temperatures during shipment. So what are you really getting when you buy Bigelow? You're getting a mass-produced tea with undisclosed bag coatings that may form carcinogens, conventionally grown leaves likely treated with chemical pesticides, unlabeled flavoring agents with synthetic compounds, and zero third-party lab reports to back up any safety. Claims Bigelow continues to trade on nostalgia and American-made branding, but the reality is that their production practices rely on opacity, not transparency. And in an industry where people are drinking these products daily, sometimes multiple times a day, that lack of clarity becomes a health concern. Tea shouldn't be a gamble, but when you're drinking Bigelow, you're rolling the dice with every sip. If you've ever browsed the tea aisle, you've seen them. dreamy pastel boxes, peaceful mountain landscapes, a bear in a robe sipping tea by moonlight. Celestial Seasonings has built an empire on the back of calm. Their branding whispers serenity, their names promise balance. Sleepy Time, Tension Tamer, Wellness Tea, but open the box, steep the bag, and the story changes. Because when you move past the cozy illustrations and into the lab reports, what you find is anything but calming. Celestial Seasonings has one of the worst track records in the tea industry when it comes to chemical contaminants, especially pesticides. In 2013, independent testing from Glaucus Research Group sent shockwaves through the wellness world. Their investigation found that over 90% of Celestial Seasonings teas contained pesticide residues. And not just minor traces, many samples exceeded federal safety limits or contained pesticides banned in Europe. The herbicide Propergite, the insecticide bifenthrin, and even DDT-related compounds, long banned in many countries, were detected in their flagship blends. One of the most contaminated products? The beloved Sleepy Time tea, a tea meant to help people wind down, rest, and detox, contaminated with compounds linked to neurotoxicity, hormonal imbalance, and even carcinogenic effects in long-term animal studies. And Celestial didn't respond with transparency. They responded with denial. Rather than publish their own third-party lab results, Celestial Seasonings tried to discredit the testing. They called the report flawed, but they never released evidence to clear their name. They didn't offer transparency. They just kept shipping boxes. And here's why that matters. Unlike coffee or cooked food, tea leaves are not washed before use. Whatever's on the plant when it's harvested, pesticide residues, soil pollutants, fungal spores, is dried, shredded, bagged, and dropped into your cup. The steeping process acts like a chemical extraction. Boiling water pulls those contaminants directly into your drink. The problem goes deeper than just pesticides. Celestial Seasonings is famous for its herbal blends, not just tea leaves, but roots, flowers, berries, barks, and spices. Many of these botanicals, when sourced from poorly regulated suppliers, have been shown to carry heavy metals like lead, arsenic, and cadmium, especially ingredients like licorice root, valerian, and burdock. Without strict batch testing and transparency, these compounds slip through, especially in mass production. And unlike pharmaceutical herbal remedies, there's no requirement in the U.S. for tea brands to test or disclose heavy metal levels in their products. To date, Celestial Seasonings has not published a public contaminants report. There are no QR codes linking to batch test results, no transparency on country of origin for the herbs, and no organic certifications on their core product line. That's not calm, that's concealment. The packaging doesn't help either. Celestial uses traditional paper tea bags, which may be treated with epichlorohydrin to reinforce the material. As we saw in earlier chapters, this compound breaks down into 3-MCPD, a substance under international scrutiny for its potential carcinogenicity. Again, no warning, no label, just natural flavors and bedtime bears. And let's talk about those natural flavors. Many of Celestial's products are heavily flavored. Spiced apple, berry zinger, tangerine dream. But when you check the ingredients, you'll see that natural flavor appears again and again. That phrase can legally include compounds synthesized in labs, sometimes extracted with petrochemical solvents like propylene glycol. These flavors mimic nature, but they're not natural in the way most consumers assume. In the end, Celestial Seasonings is a case study in contrast. Peaceful branding on the outside, questionable compounds on the inside. The trust they've built through decades of gentle marketing has lulled consumers into complacency, while lab reports show a pattern of neglect. Tea should be simple: water, plant, cup. But Celestial's blends have become chemical cocktails in disguise, and until they publish full transparency reports or commit to certified organic sourcing, they remain one of the riskiest natural tea choices on the shelf. When a tea brand tells you to relax, make sure it's not hiding the very thing that should make you worry. At first glance, Yogi tea feels like the pinnacle of wellness. The name itself evokes Eastern wisdom. The packaging, full of lotus flowers, mandalas, and calming words, positions yogi as more than just tea. It's a ritual, a philosophy, a promise of healing in every cup. But behind that branding lies a series of uncomfortable questions. Because yogi tea, for all its talk of balance, may be serving up too much of too many things with not nearly enough safety oversight. Let's start with what makes yogi different. The complexity. Unlike traditional teas made from a single plant, like green or black tea, yogi blends often contain 10, 15, sometimes over 20 herbal ingredients per tea bag. Their detox tea, a medley of dandelion, burdock, ginger, licorice root, black pepper, cinnamon, cardamom, juniper berry, long pepper, clove, and more, all in one tiny bag. And that's the problem. The more complex a formula becomes, the harder it is to test it effectively. Each of those herbs carries its own potential contaminants, heavy metals from the soil, pesticide residues, and microbial spores from post-harvest processing. Without full-spectrum batch-level testing on every ingredient, you're playing herbal roulette. Yogi doesn't publish individual contaminant reports per blend. There's no consumer-accessible database of heavy metal tests, pesticide panels, or microbial safety data. That means their users, many of whom drink these blends for specific health outcomes, have no way to verify purity. And with daily use, small contaminants add up. Let's look deeper into some of the specific herbs yogi uses heavily. Licorice root, a staple in many yogi formulas, has been flagged in studies for natural glycyrrhizin levels that can cause elevated blood pressure, potassium loss, and heart rhythm problems when consumed in large amounts or for extended periods. Ashwagandha, used in stress relief blends, is often contaminated in poorly regulated sources with lead or arsenic, especially in powdered form. Turmeric, another favorite in their immune and joint support lines, is one of the most frequently adulterated herbs globally, often cut with cheap fillers or illegally dyed with lead chromate to enhance color. Yet yogi provides no origin traceability for their herbal ingredients. There's no way to know which country a specific herb came from, how it was harvested, or how long it sat in storage before blending. And that brings us to shelf life. Most yogi products have long expiration dates, often 2 years or more, but complex herbal formulas don't necessarily retain potency or safety over long periods. Mold spores, volatile oils, and unstable active compounds degrade over time or transform in ways that are rarely studied in commercial settings. Without active stability testing, shelf life becomes a guess. Now let's talk about natural flavors. Just like other mainstream brands, Yogi includes vague natural flavor labels across many of its blends. This can legally include flavor compounds produced in a lab, chemically extracted using propylene glycol, ethyl acetate, or alcohol solvents. The flavors might come from natural sources, but the processing is often anything but. The final layer? Health claims. Yogi walks a fine legal line, making functional claims. Detox, immune support, stress relief, without going through FDA verification or clinical trials. That means people are drinking these teas to treat real symptoms, with zero guarantee of what's actually happening in their bodies. And unlike supplements, which sometimes carry dosage warnings or interactions, yogi teas do not. You could easily drink 5 cups a day, not realizing you're exceeding recommended levels of herbs like licorice, ginger, or adaptogens that interact with blood pressure meds, SSRIs, and hormonal therapies. The branding suggests safety, the flavor suggests warmth, but the data just isn't there. So what are you really drinking? A complex cocktail of botanicals from unknown farms, unverified blends with no transparent safety testing, high-risk herbs used without dosage control, and marketing promises that bypass regulation entirely. Yogi sells serenity. But for a product built on peace, it leaves too many open questions and too few answers. If tea is medicine, it should be treated with the same caution. With yogi, you're drinking a theory, without the science to back it up. Tazo exploded into the American tea market with a bang. It wasn't a quiet, traditional brand. It was loud, bold, and urban. When Starbucks acquired it in 1999, Tazo became synonymous with millennial tea culture, funky names, vibrant colors, and exotic flavors. But what most people never realized is that Tazo isn't really a tea company. It's a flavor company. And that distinction matters more than you think. Start with the ingredient labels. Tazo's most popular blends, like Passion, Zen, and Wild Sweet Orange, are packed with exciting-sounding ingredients: hibiscus, lemongrass, orange peel, rose hips. But right beneath that list, one term shows up again and again: natural flavors. At first glance, that sounds harmless. Natural, earthy, clean. But here's the truth. Natural flavors is one of the most misleading terms in food marketing. Legally, it allows companies to add chemically manipulated compounds, originally derived from natural sources, but processed through solvents, emulsifiers, and lab-engineered distillation methods that have nothing to do with how nature works. In other words, natural flavor may have started from an orange peel, but by the time it hits your tea bag, it's been processed, stripped, refined, and reconstructed with chemical agents you'll never see named on the label. Tazo leans hard on these flavoring agents. Their teas aren't designed around leaf quality or botanical purity. They're designed to simulate complex taste experiences through formulas. That tropical note in your passion blend, it's not coming from real fruit. It's likely from a blend of esters and alcohols created in a food lab. And the teas that do use real ingredients? They're often blended in such small quantities that the flavor wouldn't survive brewing without being boosted by chemical flavor agents. This is why Tazo's teas often smell stronger in the bag than they taste in the cup, because the aroma is engineered, not naturally infused, and those volatile compounds don't hold up to steeping. It's like perfume trapped in paper. Now let's talk about the tea base. Many Tazo products don't use whole leaf tea. Instead, they rely on fannings and dust, the lowest grade of tea leaf particles left over from industrial sorting. These bits brew quickly and deliver caffeine fast, but offer very little in terms of antioxidants, polyphenols, or subtle flavor complexity. To compensate, Tazo adds more natural flavors to recreate what the low-grade tea base can't deliver. It's tea reassembled in reverse. And then there's sourcing. Tazo provides almost no transparency about where their ingredients come from. There's no indication of country of origin, harvest year, or farming practices. Most blends are not USDA organic, and there's no third-party lab testing published. That means consumers have no way of knowing whether their tea contains pesticide residues, heavy metals, or irradiated ingredients, all common risks in the global spice and herb trade. Tazo is also silent on the issue of epichlorohydrin, the chemical used to treat some paper tea bags for heat resistance. This substance, when exposed to boiling water, can convert into 3-MCPD, a potential carcinogen recognized by the World Health Organization. Most mainstream tea brands still use bags treated with this compound, and Tazo has not disclosed any deviation from industry standard. And what about their bottled iced tea line? Tazo's ready-to-drink teas, sold in grocery stores and convenience chains, contain added sugars, citric acid, and concentrated tea extracts, not fresh-brewed whole-leaf tea. These are formulated beverages, not wellness drinks. In many cases, they contain more sugar than a soda, with barely a whisper of actual brewed tea. In the end, Tazo is a masterclass in sensory marketing, using aggressive flavor design and colorful packaging to give the illusion of natural purity. But when you strip away the branding, what you're left with is lab-enhanced aromas disguised as natural, low-grade tea particles masked by chemical flavoring, zero transparency on sourcing or safety testing, and a tea product that behaves more like flavored candy water than a health ritual tea should nourish. It should comfort. It should connect you to the plant itself. But with Tazo, you're not drinking tea. You're drinking the idea of tea, flavored, filtered, and manufactured to simulate nature without ever really touching it. For a while, Teavana was the crown jewel of American tea culture. With its sleek mall stores, glass canisters, and elegant loose-leaf blends, it promised a premium experience, a lifestyle of calm, class, and sophistication. When Starbucks acquired Teavana in 2012 for over $600 million, The brand's prestige skyrocketed. But like many luxury products in the food world, the image didn't match the substance. Because Teavana, despite its branding, wasn't about traditional tea culture or quality sourcing. It was about flavor engineering, excessive sweeteners, and the illusion of health, all wrapped in a luxury box. Let's start with the ingredients. Teavana's popular loose-leaf blends, like Youthberry Strawberry Grapefruit X or Caramel Chai Rooibos, are rarely made from pure tea leaves. Instead, they're packed with dried fruit chunks, flavored sugar crystals, artificial flavorings, and candied petals. In some blends, the actual tea content, green, white, or black, is less than 10%. The rest is flavor filler. In fact, many Teavana teas, especially the ones targeted at casual or first-time drinkers, resemble potpourri more than tea. They're visually stunning, with bright colors and fragrant aromas, but the taste is often artificially enhanced with added sugars, syrups, and chemically modified flavor agents. And yet they're sold in elegant tins at premium prices, with implied health benefits and artisanal flair. This is where the marketing sleight of hand becomes dangerous. Customers walk into a Teavana boutique expecting a wellness experience, but what they're often getting is a drink that contains more sugar than a soda, more artificial flavoring than a sports drink, and virtually no nutritional value beyond caffeine. Next, let's talk about transparency, or the lack thereof. Teavana never published third-party testing results for contaminants like pesticides, heavy metals, or microbial exposure, which is concerning when you consider that many of their ingredients were imported from unverified suppliers in regions with minimal agricultural oversight. Herbs like hibiscus, chamomile, rooibos, and lemongrass, staples in Teavana blends, are often grown in developing regions where lead-rich soil, unsanitary drying conditions, and pesticide overuse are widespread issues. Without regular batch testing, there's no way for consumers to verify what's in their cup, and Teavana never gave them the tools to ask. Now let's go even deeper into how their teas were meant to be prepared. Teavana's elaborate tea prep methods, using cast iron teapots, heated glass kettles, and timers, created the illusion of tradition. But in Starbucks cafes, where Teavana products were sold as shaken iced teas, the reality was this: microwaved concentrate poured over ice, pre-sweetened, shaken, and served. That's right. Despite its luxury branding, Teavana's actual retail prep method often involved reheated, pre-dosed tea syrup, not freshly steeped loose leaf. The drinks were loaded with liquid cane sugar or pre-added natural flavors, giving them the same metabolic impact as a flavored energy drink. The result? Luxury price, fast food physiology. Even after Starbucks shuttered its mall stores in 2018, Teavana's bottled teas and grocery blends lived on. But these new formats leaned further into commercial processing. Preservatives, acid regulators, citric acid, tea flavor extracts, and little resemblance to the loose-leaf dream they once sold. At this point, the brand had fully shifted from prestige ritual to convenient beverage line, a transition Starbucks executed quietly but efficiently. So what are you really getting when you drink Teavana? Aesthetic over authenticity. Chemically flavored blends masquerading as wellness, zero transparency on purity, origin, or ethical sourcing, and a microwaved shortcut wrapped in a luxury price tag. The saddest part? People trusted this brand with their rituals. They turned to Teavana to replace soda, to improve their sleep, to kickstart their health. And in return, they were handed pre-flavored sugar water in a glass canister with a floral label. Teavana isn't tea culture, it's branding culture. Designed for appearances, optimized for margins, and built to sell you a feeling. Even if the substance was never there, it's in every gas station, every dollar store fridge, and it proudly wears its 99-cent label like a badge of honor. Arizona iced tea isn't just a beverage, it's a cultural icon. The tall can, the pastel cherry blossoms, the neon green and pink color scheme. It's nostalgic, affordable, and seemingly harmless. But behind the massive popularity of Arizona iced tea lies a simple truth that few consumers realize. It's barely even tea. Let's start with the basics. When you pick up a can of Arizona green tea with ginseng and honey, you'd expect to find Well, green tea, ginseng, and honey. But take a closer look at the ingredient label, and the story quickly changes. The first ingredient, after water, is often high fructose corn syrup. Not tea, not ginseng, not honey, and not even sugar in the natural sense. Industrial corn syrup, the kind linked to blood sugar spikes, insulin resistance, and inflammation. That means the green tea experience that Arizona markets is primarily sugar water, dyed and flavored to mimic the idea of tea. In fact, some Arizona teas pack up to 24 grams of sugar per can, roughly the same as a small can of Coca-Cola, and yet they're still sold under the assumption of being a healthier alternative. The tea itself? It's typically brewed from tea concentrate, a processed extract created by boiling down low-grade tea leaves into a syrupy base. This concentrate is then diluted, flavored, and preserved with citric acid, ascorbic acid, and natural flavorings, a term we've exposed before for its lack of regulation and chemical manipulation. What you're drinking isn't a brewed cup of green or black tea. It's a factory-created infusion of concentrate, sugar, additives, and marketing. And that ginseng on the label? It's barely present, if at all. Despite bold front-of-package claims, ginseng is usually listed at the bottom of the ingredient list, often below preservatives. In terms of potency, there's unlikely to be more than a dusting per can, not enough to provide any measurable cognitive or energy benefit, but just enough to trigger a health halo in your mind. Honey? Same story. It's not a primary sweetener. It's used for branding, not nutrition. Now let's talk about labeling loopholes. Arizona can legally call itself green tea or real brewed because the product contains some amount of tea extract or leaf derivative. But there's no standard for how much actual tea must be present. That means as long as a formula contains a trace of tea concentrate, it qualifies for the label, even if the nutritional profile is closer to a soda or soft drink. And if you're drinking Arizona for the antioxidants found in real tea, like EGCG in green tea, don't count on it. Tea polyphenols are highly sensitive to heat, light, and oxidation. In most shelf-stable canned teas, those compounds break down long before you open the can. Studies have shown that by the time you drink a bottled tea, the antioxidant content is virtually non-existent. And we haven't even mentioned the packaging. Arizona's tall cans are made from aluminum, often lined with BPA-containing resins. BPA, or bisphenol A, is a known endocrine disruptor that can leach into acidic or sugary beverages, especially if stored in heat. So if your Arizona sat in a hot delivery truck or warehouse, you may be getting a dose of hormone-disrupting chemicals along with your sugar and tea flavoring. So let's summarize what Arizona iced tea really is. High fructose corn syrup drink flavored with trace amounts of tea extract, heavily processed with preservatives and synthetic natural flavors, packaged in BPA-lined aluminum cans with long shelf lives, marketed as a tea product, but delivering the health profile of a cheap soda. The branding says wholesome. The ingredients say otherwise. Arizona isn't a wellness drink, it's tea-flavored sugar water in a tall can, engineered for taste, not health. So the next time someone tells you they don't drink soda, just Arizona, ask them to flip the can around, because the back of the label always tells the real story. After 7 chapters filled with deception, pesticides, synthetic additives, and sugar-laced fakes, it's time to look at a brand that does things differently. A brand that doesn't hide behind flashy flavor names or vague health claims. That brand is Pukka. While most tea companies rely on marketing, Pukka relies on integrity. Every element of their operation is built on traceability, third-party verification, and a commitment to organic purity, qualities that are shockingly rare in the tea industry. Let's begin with their sourcing. Pukka teas are 100% certified organic under the UK Soil Association and USDA organic programs. That means no synthetic pesticides, no chemical fertilizers, no GMO ingredients, and no herbicide residues. Their herbal ingredients, ginger root, turmeric, fennel, licorice, chamomile, tulsi, are all grown on sustainable, monitored farms with complete traceability back to the source. Puka publishes documentation outlining exact farming practices, drying procedures, and even harvest times. You know exactly what you're drinking and where it came from. Compare that to conventional brands that won't even tell you what country their tea was grown in. Next, testing. This is where Puka sets a gold standard. Every batch of Puka tea undergoes independent lab testing for pesticide residues, heavy metals like lead, arsenic, cadmium, microbial contamination, solvent residues in case of extracted ingredients. These lab results are available upon request and used to validate their organic certifications annually. In a market filled with brands that hide behind proprietary blends and natural flavorings, Puka's willingness to show their work sets them apart. And speaking of flavor, one thing you'll notice is that Puka never uses natural flavors. There are no vague extracts, no flavor enhancers, no solvents in disguise. Every taste comes from real ingredients, whole spices, roots, leaves, flowers. If a tea says 3 ginger, you're getting 3 actual gingers: Zingiber officinal, galangal root, and golden turmeric, each carefully dried and cut to preserve volatile oils. No shortcuts, no synthetic stand-ins. And because of this, Puka teas actually taste earthy and real, not candy sweet, not perfume-like, but grounded, as plant medicine should be. Let's also talk packaging. Most tea bags in the industry are treated with epichlorohydrin, a chemical that can leach into hot water and form 3-MCPD, a potential carcinogen. But Puka uses unbleached, non-GMO, plastic-free, biodegradable tea bags, certified safe for both health and compost. Even the envelope wrappers are fully recyclable with no plastic lining, something that 95% of competitors still haven't addressed. Now, what about functional use? Unlike brands that carelessly toss 10+ herbs into every bag, Puka formulates their blends based on Ayurvedic and Western herbal medicine principles. Their formulations are crafted by certified herbalists, not marketing teams. For example, Nighttime is designed to reduce cortisol and support melatonin rhythms with chamomile, lavender, valerian, and oat straw. Detox contains cleansing herbs like aniseed, fennel, and cardamom, not chemical laxatives like senna. Feel New combines licorice root and turmeric for gut support and anti-inflammatory benefits. Again, all whole herbs, nothing processed. That kind of intelligent design doesn't happen by accident. It happens when a company prioritizes your health over your cravings. Let's not ignore corporate transparency either. Puka was acquired by Unilever in 2017, a move that raised eyebrows. But the founders insisted on keeping strict organic and ethical standards baked into the acquisition terms. And since then, Puka has continued to release annual sustainability reports, showing everything from carbon usage to ethical trade certifications. In a world of tea brands hiding behind loopholes, this level of ongoing public accountability is rare and powerful. So what are you really getting when you drink Puka? Real herbs, not lab-designed flavor, organic farming, not chemically assisted shortcuts, tested purity, not just marketing promises, biodegradable packaging, not microplastic waste, functional formulations, not filler blends. Puka isn't pretending to be tea. Puka is tea, the way it's meant to be. Walk into any natural food store, and you'll find one tea brand that looks more like medicine than a cozy bedtime ritual. No pastel illustrations, no tropical names, just a clinical white box with botanical illustrations and names like Throat Coat, Smooth Move, and Breathe Easy. That brand is Traditional Medicinals, and it lives up to its name. In an industry flooded with sugar-laced fakes and flavor-masked dust, Traditional Medicinals remains one of the very few tea companies that treats herbs like what they are: bioactive plant compounds that deserve clinical-level respect. Let's begin with formulation. Unlike most tea brands that toss in herbs for flavor or buzzwords, Traditional Medicinals builds every product from the ground up using Pharmacopeal standards, the same quality benchmarks used in Western herbal medicine textbooks. Every blend is designed by trained herbalists and rigorously reviewed for dose accuracy, synergy, and intended effect. Their Throat Coat tea, for example, isn't just a comforting drink. It's built around demulcent herbs like slippery elm bark, licorice root, and marshmallow root, which coat mucous membranes and reduce inflammation. Their Smooth Move tea isn't a casual detox. It contains senna leaf, a clinically proven herbal laxative, dosed precisely to avoid dependency or overuse. This is serious tea, and they treat it seriously. But unlike supplements that come with vague disclaimers and no testing, Traditional Medicinals backs up its claims with science and verification. Every single ingredient they use is USDA certified organic non-GMO project verified tested for over 500 potential contaminants and verified for identity, strength, and purity. This includes rigorous screening for pesticide residues, heavy metals like lead, cadmium, and arsenic pathogens and microbes, solvent residues, in the rare cases where extracts are used. And unlike most mainstream tea companies, they don't use natural flavors at all. You taste what's in the plant. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's talk sourcing. Traditional Medicinals works directly with small farmers and wildcrafters around the world, from Egypt to Albania to India. They don't just buy herbs. They invest in regenerative farming, fair trade practices, and long-term community development in their sourcing regions. Many of the farmers they work with have been partners for decades, and their transparency is second to none. Every box includes the scientific names of each herb, their function, and even the plant part used, something most brands never disclose. On their website, you can trace the origin of key ingredients, read detailed sourcing stories, and explore how each blend was developed by their in-house clinical herbalists. They've even published peer-reviewed studies on some of their formulations, making them one of the few tea brands with scientific literature behind the product. Let's not forget their packaging ethics either. Their tea bags are non-bleached, made without epichlorohydrin or plastic sealants, fully compostable, and encased in recyclable envelopes free from plastic linings. That means no hormone-disrupting microplastics, no glues that leach into hot water, and no mystery chemicals floating in your cup. Now, to be clear, these are functional teas, not everyday casual blends. You wouldn't sip Smooth Move 5 times a day, and they don't try to market it that way. Traditional Medicinals clearly states dosage, frequency, and cautions because they respect the power of what they're selling. That honesty is rare in this space. Most brands oversell and underdeliver. Traditional Medicinals does the opposite. So what are you actually getting when you drink their teas? True herbal function, not fake flavor. Clinically informed formulas, not random herb piles. Third-party tested ingredients, not guesswork. Pharmacopoeia-grade purity, not supermarket shortcuts. And a brand that behaves more like a botanical pharmacy than a beverage company. In a market obsessed with wellness theater, Traditional Medicinals is one of the only players treating tea as legitimate plant medicine. No fluff, no fantasy, just real herbs, real science, and real results. Not all tea is created equal, and Rishi Tea proves that sometimes doing things the hard way is the only way to do them right. In a market where most brands chase mass production, quick flavor hits, and margin-friendly shortcuts, Rishi stands apart. It doesn't rely on fake buzzwords, flashy packaging, or vague wellness claims. Instead, it focuses on something much more rare: real tea, real sourcing, and real respect for the leaf. Let's start with their foundation: loose leaf integrity. Rishi doesn't sell tea dust in bleached bags. Their core product is whole leaf, single origin loose tea, meaning the leaves are intact, unbroken, and uncompromised. And that's not just a visual detail, it's biochemical. Whole leaves contain higher concentrations of polyphenols, volatile oils, and aromatic compounds that get lost when tea is crushed into low-grade fannings or dust, like in most supermarket bags. And this isn't just about flavor, it's about function. Real green tea, for example, contains EGCG, a powerful antioxidant linked to improved brain function, fat oxidation, and reduced inflammation. But that compound degrades quickly in low-quality teas. Rishi's whole leaf structure helps preserve these fragile bioactive elements, delivering a truer version of what tea is meant to be. Now let's talk sourcing. Rishi is obsessive about origin. Every tea they offer, whether it's Sencha, Silver Needle, or Darjeeling, comes with direct trade sourcing, meaning the company works personally with tea farmers, not through brokers or middlemen. They visit the estates, they walk the fields, they taste the harvests, and they only buy what meets their exact standards. That means no mystery blends, no filler leaves, no commodity market dumping. It also means seasonal rotation, just like fresh produce. Rishi offers first flush Darjeeling, spring-picked oolong, shade-grown Japanese matcha, each with documented harvest windows and profiles. Their Japanese matcha, for example, is shade-grown for 3 to 4 weeks before harvest to increase chlorophyll and L-theanine stone ground using traditional mills to protect antioxidant structure. Tested for heavy metals and radiation, especially important given Japan's post-Fukushima agricultural landscape. That's the kind of detail no mainstream brand will ever tell you, because most don't even know where their tea came from. Rishi publishes origin details, processing techniques, and tasting notes for almost every blend. You're not drinking a marketing term, you're drinking a documented agricultural event. Let's talk formulations too. Even when Rishi offers blends like turmeric ginger or blueberry rooibos, they never use natural flavoring. No mystery extracts, no lab-built aromas, just real spices, real herbs, real fruit pieces, often organic, always traceable. That's rare. Most brands lean on flavoring chemicals to create uniformity, but Rishi accepts that real ingredients vary. That seasonal variation, that subtlety, it's part of what makes Rishi's teas feel alive, not artificial. Now let's touch on safety and testing. All Rishi teas are certified organic, where applicable non-GMO, tested for microbial contamination, screened for pesticides, herbicides, and heavy metals, packaged without BPA or plastic linings. And most important, they publish transparent sourcing information. You can trace your tea to the mountain it was grown on, the season it was picked, and the people who harvested it. That level of sourcing isn't just ethical, it's educational. It reconnects consumers to the true value of tea, not as a quick beverage, but as a centuries-old craft. So, what are you really getting with Rishi? Whole leaf, direct source teas, not crushed leftovers, functional antioxidant profiles, not stripped down dust, culinary grade ingredients, not chemical flavors, global transparency, not supply chain opacity, and a cup that actually tastes like where it came from. Rishi doesn't make cheap tea. They make real tea for people who actually care. In a world of flavor hacks and fake wellness, Rishi proves that sometimes the hard way is the only honest way. Some tea brands compete with flavor. Others compete with price. Numi competes with principles. In a market overflowing with vague labels, artificially flavored dust, and greenwashed packaging, Numi stands out for one reason: radical simplicity backed by ethical rigor. Where most companies aim to scale first and ask questions later, Numi does the opposite. They built their entire model around ingredient purity, social transparency, and planet-first practices. Not as a marketing gimmick, but as a non-negotiable foundation. Let's start with ingredients. Numi teas contain exactly what they say on the box, and nothing else. No natural flavors, no mystery sweeteners, no aroma enhancers, just whole organic plant ingredients, real herbs, real flowers, real spices. Their aged Earl Grey, for example, isn't flavored with synthetic bergamot oil substitute. It's real, Italian bergamot, aged on whole leaf black tea for weeks to infuse natural citrus oils directly into the leaves. Their Moroccan mint is made from single origin spearmint, sun-dried in small batches and left uncut until packaging, preserving essential oils and flavor integrity. And their golden chai uses real cardamom pods, cinnamon bark, ginger root, and cloves. Not powder, not syrup, and not lab extracts. It's a radical shift in mindset. Rather than simulating flavor with chemicals, Numi lets the real plant speak. Now let's talk certifications, because Numi isn't just clean by feel, it's clean by proof. USDA Organic Certified Non-GMO Project, Verified Fair Trade and Fair Labor Certified, Climate Neutral Certified, and plastic-free, biodegradable tea bags and wrappers. Their entire product line is also halal and kosher, with full allergen disclosures. No surprises, no corners cut. But what truly sets Numi apart is its ethics-forward sourcing. While most tea brands rely on large brokers, Numi builds direct relationships with farming cooperatives. They invest in local education, clean water infrastructure, and women's empowerment programs across their supplier communities, from Madagascar to Egypt to South America. They don't just write checks, they build partnerships with measurable impact. One example, their turmeric comes from a cooperative in Madagascar where Numi helped fund wells, schools, and regenerative farming training, ensuring that every harvest not only supports your health, but builds theirs. And then there's the packaging, a category most brands ignore completely. Numi was one of the first tea brands to go completely plastic-free, replacing petroleum-based wrappers with home-compostable plant fiber. Their cartons are made from 100% post-consumer recycled cardboard, printed with soy-based inks, and are certified carbon neutral from production to delivery. Even their supply chain emissions are offset through verified reforestation projects. That means your cup of tea doesn't come with hidden plastic waste, long-haul carbon footprints, or landfill guilt. It's one of the only teas that's as clean to dispose of as it is to drink. And what about transparency? Numi offers a public impact report every year documenting carbon output, water use, ethical sourcing metrics, worker well-being programs, and regenerative agriculture initiatives. No other mainstream tea brand goes this far, and they don't hide the cost. Numi teas are priced slightly higher than supermarket blends, but you're not paying for marketing. You're paying for real ingredients, real wages, real soil health, and real packaging integrity. So what are you really getting when you drink Numi? Single origin, whole ingredients, not factory blended dust flavor from nature, not chemistry, verified purity and ethical sourcing across every supply chain touchpoint, plastic-free, carbon-neutral, compostable packaging, and a brand that talks less and proves more. In a world where natural is just a sticker, Numi is one of the only tea companies that actually earns the title. Clean tea, clean conscience, and a cup that honors both the plant and the people who grew it. We've just uncovered the truth behind some of the biggest names in the tea industry. From synthetic flavor masks and chemical-laced bags, to real ethical brands that still respect the leaf and the land. And now, the choice is yours. Because every cup you brew either supports transparency or rewards deception. It either heals or quietly harms. So before you reach for that box on the shelf, ask yourself, was this grown with care? Is it tested for purity? Do I know where it came from? And what's in it? If the answer is no, it might not be tea. It might just be marketing. But the good news is this: there are clean brands, there are ethical blends, and there are companies proving that quality, transparency, and wellness can still coexist. If this video changed the way you look at tea, even just a little, hit that like button, subscribe for more investigative food breakdowns, and drop a comment. Which tea brand shocked you the most? Until next time, brew with intention, drink with awareness, and stay informed.